Hello, everyone out there. A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you, depending on where you are. So, GMAT Wiz is back again with its in depth reading strategy, guys. Okay, we will be talking about a lot of the various things related to reading and comprehension on GMAT RC. But in the meantime, let me just okay. So, Kuftuka, I hope that your wait is over, and I do hope you're going to get a lot of benefit from this session, guys. So, I keep getting a lot of requests on reading and comprehension. You know, share tips and strategies for reading and comprehension, and GMAT Wiz reading and comprehension strategies are now becoming one of the go-to things for most of our viewers. So, guys, do send me a hello back from your end, where you are from and what you are doing currently, at what level of preparation you are. And in the meantime, let me also quickly introduce myself. Hi, Astha. Yes, Astha, I'm also looking forward to this as well. Trust me on that. So, my name is Sunita. I'm the verbal head at GMAT Quiz, and I'm also the lead course architect of the verbal course of GMAT on GMAT Quiz. I've got over a decade of teaching experience, guys. It's something I love doing. I've mentored thousands of students, both through the course, live, in person, and also through my private tutoring sessions. Um, and I have scored the 99th percentile on the verbal section a number of times. So let me quickly look at who all are there. Um, so Astha, it's supposed to be an hour and a half, and I'll try to keep it to that. Hi, Vibhor. So you're giving your exam on Thursday. All the best for that right away, Vibhor. And I do hope some of the strategies that I'm going to discuss today are going to help you as well. Guys, I can see a lot more of you are out there. It would be lovely if you could say a hello back. It's always nice to know who you are talking to, even if you can't see them. You can see me, but I can't see you. At least I would love to know your names, guys. So I can just see right now comments from Astha and Vibhor. And I'm going to quickly put up the agenda in a moment. Hi, Chetan. Okay, Chetan is taking his exam in December, round 2. All right. Okay. So, guys, I can see a lot more are there and they are still joining. In the meantime, let me quickly set up the agenda, guys, without any more time. So, what we're going to look at today primarily is, of course, I'll very, very, very briefly discuss why reading and comprehension is important, guys. Okay. And then I'm going to talk about why most of us falter at RC, because most of us do. I've heard a lot of my students say that RC is a killer. I do well on CR, I do well on SC, but when it comes to RC, something or the other goes wrong and I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then, of course, the main part, the improvement strategy, what to do to improve on RC. Okay. And of course, this time saving, I call it an irony, guys, because it really is an irony. You know why it's an irony? The more time you try to save, how do you try to save time? You try to rush. You try to save time. The more you rush, the less time you save. It's really paradoxical, ironical, call it whatever you will. Astha has exam coming on Monday. Astha, I really hope today's session will help you. Hi, Kush. So Kush is taking the exam within 2 months. A lot of time to change your strategy. Hi, Vishnu. So we have a lot of people here who are all on the same boat. We're all sailing on the same boat, guys. Very quickly, just quickly, why are RCs? I'm not going to say RC is the most important, but then honestly speaking, the why is it more important to get RCs correct? Can you quickly tell me? Hi, Animal. Yes, guys, can you quickly tell me why are RC questions like more important on the GMAT exam? Quickly. I don't want to waste too much of time on this, although it is very important to know why RCs are more important. Yes, quickly, your views on that, guys, because I really want to get started with the questions, but I would love to hear your views. Why do you think RC is important, more important? Why is it more important to get RC questions correct? Uh, so Asta says totally based on the in the exam concentration. Vishnu says, if I don't understand RC, it costs me 3 questions. Very good, Vishnu. If you do not get your RCs correct, intrinsically, what that means is you probably did not understand your passage correctly. Without understanding the passage, you went ahead with your questions and you made mistakes. And because you did not understand the passage, you made multiple mistakes, guys, one after the other, consecutive errors. My God, your percentage points will fall at least by 3-4 points suddenly if you get 3 questions wrong in a row. Okay, absolutely, Astha. So, RCs are very important. While studying a lot of ESRs, we have seen that, wherever students have made consecutive mistakes, it has caused them very heavily. It's a computer adaptive test. All right, the exam algorithm adapts itself to your performance. Okay, guys, enough about that. Now, a little bit quickly about what is it about RCs that trouble you the most, guys? Quickly. What is it about RCs that troubles you the most? I know the answer, but I would love to hear it from you. You also should take it out of your system. Let it out there. Tell it out. Share it. What scares you? Because once you've shared your fears, it will no longer scare you. So let me see. Guys, a lot more of you are out there. I would love to interact with you. I'm already seeing Chetan, Astha, Vibhor, Vishnu, Enamul interacting, Kush. All right. So let me see. Yes, Vishnu says strategy, definitely on dealing with the type of question. Timing is an issue, says Anurag. Asta says there's a fight between understanding the content versus the logical flow. Very important, that point, Asta. Understanding the logical flow, And I'm going to deal with that today. What to do to understand the logical flow. Anything else, guys, which bothers you about RCs? Come on, quickly. Hong says reread, but you still don't understand. So, what Hong is saying is he or she spends a lot of time rereading the RC, but to no avail. Yes, Chetan, rereading takes a lot of time. So, rereading, time. How to nail the skill of logic and strategy? Nice question, Nix. Um, okay. So, Vibhor says he gets fatigued. Interesting. So, what I can understand so far from what each of you guys are saying, and maybe more, uh, Part says not being able to do all 4 RCs, skipping. Oh my God, Part, one thing, let me tell you very, 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 very clearly. Never ever skip any question, not just RCs. Do not skip questions at least in your first 3 quarters. It's like literally committing suicide. Anurag says optimal note taking. Okay, note taking, guys, is totally a very personal thing. Some of us are okay with taking that note mentally. It would be a good idea to take notes when you're in the learning phase, but gradually move towards a phase where you don't have to write down anything physically. Even if you have to write down, it's going to be like minimal. All right, guys, so let me put all of this together without wasting any more time. All right. There's a common fear factors are, it's an unfamiliar topic. I cannot remember what I've read. I have to reread it. Answer choices are closed. It's very time consuming. You have these preconceived notions about RC. You set up a mental block, and because of that, you are already telling yourself RC is difficult for me. I can't do this. Trust me, guys, this is going to be the most important battle, the battle with your own self. Okay, if you set up a mental block and try out various strategies, in my opinion, I've seen people try out different strategies like, okay, just let me scan the passage, let me just skim through the passage quickly, and I'll come back later. Even if I haven't understood some things, I'll come back later. Or you read the first line, read the last line, and then you go to the questions and skim through the rest of the passage. Different kinds of strategies, a mix and match of skimming and scanning. It doesn't work, guys. You must have tried all of this. It doesn't work. It costs you time and you also lack confidence. What you really need is precise understanding of the passage because of which all of this is happening. Okay, so don't think about time. Don't think about And this is I'm telling you at the beginning stage. If all the time you keep thinking about time, you'll never improve. The strategy that I'm going to talk about today, initially you'll have to just say a bye bye to time. Okay. When you say part ending questions, are you talking about the last 3-4 questions? Because the weightage of the last 3-4 questions is way lower than the weightage of the earlier 3/4 questions. Okay. And again, not referring specifically to RC. All right, guys. So let me kickstart this with this question. Okay. I want all of you to first solve this question. By the way, how much time do you think I should give you to read that paragraph and that one question? Come on, quickly, guys. You tell me, how much time should I give you? Go ahead. All of you out there, guys, this is going to be really important. Even if you've solved this question earlier, because it is an OG question, all right, don't worry. We are going to look at the technique, the strategy, and I want you to just throw time out of the windows of your minds for the time being. Okay, Chetan says 2.5 minutes. Vishnu says 1.5 minutes. How about the others? There are over 60 of you that I can see right away. Please, please share your thoughts on how much time should I give you to give this paragraph and this one question a fair shot. So far, I've got 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Astha says 5 minutes. Okay, so Astha is including the reading time and the answering one question. Pragya, 3 minutes. Part says 4 minutes. Okay, the logo is blocking the top part. All right, guys, let me see if I can do something about it. Just hold on a second. Let me see if I can do something about the top part. I'll just read it out for you guys because I can't really change anything else. I'll write out the part which is in the chat box for all of you to see. Don't worry. Okay. I'm going to copy paste the first 3 sentences and I'm going to paste it in the chat box for all of you and I'm going to show it. Okay. So the first 3 sentences which are hidden by the logo, I'm sharing it, guys. Okay, I hope that's now clear for you. The first 3 sentences I've shared, guys. So all right, so most of you believe 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes. All right, guys, I'm going to be generous. I'll give you 4 minutes. Okay, reading time and solving time. Go ahead. I'm going to mute myself. I don't want you to put your answer choices until I ask you to put it. All right, guys. So solve this. You have 4 minutes. You have 4 minutes, guys. All right. I'm going to tell you when to put in your answer choices. So till then, just hold on to your answers. Okay. Shall we get started, guys? All the best. Come on. 4 minutes. Your time starts now. I'll remove the portion, the lower portion in a moment. Don't worry. Then you'll be able to see your question also. You have 4 minutes, guys. I'm going to time you. So get started. 15 seconds more, guys. And if you have finished solving the question, you can start putting in your answers now. For those of you who've just joined, we are going to discuss the strategy, the reading strategies that can help you understand your question better, solve your question with high accuracy. Okay, guys, time up. So let me look at the answers. Apurva says the correct answer is B. Chetan says A. I'm waiting for the other answers, guys. In the meantime, those of you who finished solving, you can also share your, your thoughts on this. It's just one paragraph of a passage, guys. So let me see. Astha says just done in time. Yes, Astha, I know that feeling. Aditya says D. Parth says B. Nix is like not so sure about D, maybe, so a question mark there. Asta says it's B. Vishnu says it's D. So it's like B and D so far. I'm still waiting for the others to put in their answers. Then I've got Pradhan saying B. Let me see. A lot of you have marked B. A few of you have marked D. And there are over 70 of you that I can see. Rahil says B. Come on, guys. Put in your answers. Odufa says C. Okay. There are lots of things that I'm going to discuss related to this question. I mean, not related to this question per se, but related to this question type as well. So just hold on to that. Anita says D. Shekhar says E. So I've also got some C and E coming in. Otherwise, it's mostly B and D so far. Asta says summary is literally one line. Why do they have to write such long passages for something that can be capsuled? So that Astha, they can test your thoughts. you know, I think everybody likes to put out their thoughts in detail. Anurag says D. Anvesh says D. Hmm. Interesting. Okay, guys. So now a lot of you have got, and I'm sure a lot of you are still solving this. Okay, now here's the thing, guys. Yeah, Chetan, because it's GMAT. But in general, there are writers do like to write a lot. I think if you and me also became writers, we would also like to kind of go on writing and writing and writing. No, we're all like that. All right, guys. So here's the thing. I am going to show you now. Not going to tell you the answer right away. That's not the point. I'm going to show you how this paragraph should be read. So all of you who are taking the exam in the next few days, I remember it's Astha, Vishnu for sure. Okay. No, I think it was Astha and Vibhor. I'm not so sure. Vishnu is also taking it soon. And the others who are who are aiming for round 2, guys, concentrate on how I'm reading because that's the main point. Improvement strategies. Okay. It's how you read and not I mean, of course, what you read, but how you read that makes a huge difference. All right. Rahil says you have to complete the daily word goal. Yeah, Rahil, I know. Antriksh says it should be D. Hi, Antriksh. Good to see you. Vinayak, hi. I was actually waiting for, so if it's the same Vinayak. Vinayak says B. All right. So part, I think 15th October, you still have about 10 days if you adopt the strategies that I'm going to talk. Very simple, guys. No rocket science. It's just that don't rush. Do not move on without understanding a segment. That's the bottom line. Usually we read a segment, we don't understand it, we tell ourselves, okay, let me go ahead, let me see what lies ahead. That will never work. All right, Apurva, 23rd October, lots of time. So guys, just pay attention to how I'm reading and how I am summarizing. Okay, now please remember, you don't have to write down everything. I have written down things so that you can look at it and you can understand what you need to understand, but you don't have to write down such long sentences. You can't. All right. All right. Vinayak says C. So I've got basically B's. I've got one or two A's. Most of them are B's. A few, slightly less than B, I've got D's. And fewer still C and E as well. So let's get started. I'm going to just uh, put off my camera because it's like really difficult to write on the screen with the camera, literally peeking into your face. Okay, guys, here I get started. Just pay attention. What I'm going to demonstrate is GMAT quizzes involved and evolved reading. I have had students who have used the strategy to jump from a verbal 32 to a verbal 44 in just 28 days. Yes, Asa, you can access this video later on also, but I would love to have you. So let me get started. Okay. Now, just before I get started, you guys tell me whether you agree with these things, whether you agree that the language was very dense. Even if I didn't understand something, I continued reading forward. In the end, I only had a rough understanding of the paragraph, something about the royalists, patriarchalism, feminists, and their conflicts. I was confused between two of the option choices. I ended up rereading the passage or some parts of it, marked some choice but wasn't confident. Guys, how many of y'all experienced at least one or more of these thoughts? Come on, how many of y'all? Just say a yes. Just say a yes if you identify with even one of them. Ryle says two parts didn't experience any of these. What did you mark, Parth? Let me just go back. Parth, what was your answer? Okay, our Parth's answer was B. All right, Parth. Let's see whether the answer was correct. Pradhan says yes. Asta says almost all of this. Ashutosh. I know, guys, because I also used to feel like this. Already when I used to read it in a very random, very, just this and that way, ad hoc manner, I used to feel some of these thoughts. Okay, but with involved and evolved reading you can do away with almost all of these, guys, and I'm not exaggerating, trust me, not just because it is something that GMAT was advocates. I'm not just pushing it because of that. It really works. Okay, so let me get started. Oh, let me put up the camera. It's like once again going to keep peeking into my face. Ah, here it is. I'm going to show you how I decoded it. Okay, so I start reading. It is an odd but indisputable fact. And I stop here and I quickly tell myself, who's saying this? It's clearly somebody's opinion. Na? Somebody thinks something is odd, but that person doesn't really want to dispute whatever he or she is finding that it odd. So, since nobody else is attributed, it is the author. Now, it's very, very important to keep segregating author's opinion, third party opinion, and facts. It is very, very important. You will get a lot of questions asking you questions, asking you or querying you, inquiring into who is saying what, why are they saying, okay, does X agree with Y, does the author agree with this, does so and so agree with that. So you've got to be like really careful right from the beginning. Somebody, so Astha, I think, was talking about the flow. To understand the flow, you have to understand what is situated where in the passage. Okay, so right at the beginning I have the author's opinion here that something is odd, but that oddity is not disputable. That oddity is a fact. So what is a fact? Starting from this whole thing is a fact, but I'm not going to read it like that. Look at how I'm going to read it. What is odd? 17th century English women, okay, and these women, so this is a modifier for them, they are regarded as forerunners of modern feminism. So these 17th century English women were probably early feminists. All right. So the odd part is these 17th century English women are almost all identified with the royalist side. This is the odd fact. So what does the author find odd? It's odd that all these early feminists were in the royalist side. Now, I don't know what is royalist side. Okay. I just have to believe there was a side called royalist side. And this side was in a conflict between royalists and parliamentarians known as the English Civil Wars. All right. So this whole thing is a fact. And in this whole thing, what the author finds odd is all the early women feminists belonged to one side when there were two sides. Okay. And now, if you are making notes, guys, always note down what you have understood and not what you have read over there. I'm putting down a lot of things here in my notes, but I don't want you to do that. Is that clear, guys? Okay. You don't have to note down everything. Always note down stuff that you have understood, not what is already written there. What is already written there, you can always re-refer. It's there, black and white. But what have you understood? Okay, you've understood the author is talking about an odd fact. All early feminists belonged to royalists. That's it. That's the odd fact. That's your summarization. That's all that you need to note down. If you're noting down on paper, that's it. Use shorthand. Don't write long sentences. If you're noting it mentally here, good enough. You can kind of start with practicing on paper and kind of inculcate it into like mental note making. All right. No harm then. Because remember, if you need to get the flow, you need to get the flow right from the beginning. You can't just enter the passage somewhere and get the flow suddenly. It won't happen like that. All right. So let me again mute myself, the camera, and get back. So look at what I noted. I would kind of just note, all right, the author finds a fact odd but true. And if I want to note down something, I'll just say, okay, 17th century forerunners, feminism, royalists, non-parliamentarians. I would just kind of note down in short. That's the crux, that's the bigger picture so far. And the bigger picture is like the author wants to discuss probably this odd fact. Okay. Then I start off the next sentence. Since. Now in GMAT Wiz, we believe that we should always pay attention to these transition words. You know, they show a shift in thought, they show the flow in which direction the author wants us to move. Clearly, here the author wants to give a reasoning behind something. Since is used either to indicate the time or to indicate a reasoning. Now, guys, just preempting a little bit here, if you notice, this sentence which starts with since ends here. It's approximately some 80-90 words there, guys. Almost like a small paragraph, one sentence made up of a full 90 words, 80 words, my God. And if you were reading this sentence in one long flow, I'm sure you would have to reread it and reread it and reread it. So here's the thing that we're going to do. Pay attention to how I'm going to break this sentence, okay? Since, okay, so the author is talking about because royalist ideology, okay, now he's talking about the philosophy of these royalist people, royalist side to which these women belonged to. So it's saying because royalist ideology is often associated. Who associates it? Who associates it, guys? Probably it's a general belief. That is why the author is not saying he associates it. He's saying it is often associated. That means the general belief is third party belief, therefore. Royalist ideology is related to patriarchalism of Robert Filmer. Okay. All right. So the data point that I get here is the royalist ideology is all about patriarchalism of Robert Filmer, and who this Filmer is. This data I'm going to kind of sift, put it one side. And then if you notice, guys, this part is just a definition of that patriarchalism if you don't know what it is. So it tells us, and this part I'm going to read, not kind of reading it as a part of that sentence. This part of the sentence I'm going to read, keeping in mind that we are defining Robert Filmer's patriarchalism. Okay. So patriarchalism equates family and kingdom. All right, patriarchalism kind of considers family and kingdom on equal footing, and patriarchalism asserts, that means emphasizes, the divinely ordained absolute power of the king. I'm going to kind of dumb this down and say patriarchalism equates family and kingdom, emphasizes power of king, By analogy, that means by comparison, power of the male head of the household. If I dumb this down, Robert Filmer's patriarchalism is all about male power, right? And now I start thinking, oh, why is this author telling us about the fact that royalists followed patriarchalism? Because these English women were feminists, these royalists were all about male dominance. Is the author trying to bring about a contrast between the ideas of the early feminists who were from the royalist side and the royalist ideology as a whole? Is the author trying to do that? Now I'm asking questions here. I'm asking questions like, what is the meaning of the sentence? I'm asking questions like, who is saying it? I'm asking questions like, why is it being said? This is my holy trilogy. What, who, why? What? The author is discussing the royalist ideology. It followed Robert Filmer's patriarchalism, which was all about male dominance. Who is saying this? The author is offering us this data here right after the fact that the author finds it odd that all the royalist women, all the early feminists belong to the royalist side. Why is the author giving us this here? Probably the author wants to kick us into thinking that, look, these royalist women were feminists, but they belonged to a philosophy which was all about male dominance, right? So okay, this is the definition of patriarchalism, and I'm like quite um, kind of thinking about what to note down right now. I haven't noted out anything so far. Now I'll continue. So I'm just going to sift through. So all this part about male dominance and all this was, now I've understood this. So this I'm going to cut out from my portion. I've understood it. I'm going to cut it out. And my sentence will actually continue from here. Because royalist ideology is associated with patriarchalism of Robert Filmer, because of that, historians have been puzzled. Okay, and what have they been puzzled? Now, we had the author being puzzled at the beginning. Now, the author is talking about historians being understandably puzzled. That means the author also agrees with these historians. The author's puzzlement, is there a word like puzzlement? I don't think so. The author's bafflement is also the historian's bafflement. What are they baffled about? They are baffled about the fact that royalist women wrote criticisms of subordination of women in marriage. Okay, hold on. Royalist ideology was male is the head of the family, absolute power of the male. And these royalist women, they were writing against the suppression of women in marriage. Weird, na? You belong to a family which believes in suppression of women, and you are writing right against that. Okay, so the author does want us to draw a contrast between what the royalist women who were feminists and the royalist ideology was, that difference. So if I dumb down my second sentence, that 90-word long sentence, what I'm really saying is, because Filmer's ideology, which was basically the royalist ideology, observed absolute male power, historians are puzzled that women who belong to such a family criticize the male power. If you go ahead, we also have women, women, royalist women, writing about systematic assertions of women's equality with men. Okay, clear, guys? Can you see now? I'm just going to ask you quickly, guys, can you see? We'll talk about time a little later down the line, all of you. Somshekhar, we'll talk about how to dumb down the time. The best way to the best way to bring down the time is not to reread stuff. Read it in small portions, small segments, understand it, digest it, note it down if you want to, okay? And then forget it. All right, guys, did it help? Were you able to understand? Were you able to see what I did here? Just tell me yes if you did, and then I'm going to move ahead. This one paragraph is like 3 long sentences. Each sentence contains modifiers and crux. You take out the crux, that is what you note. You move ahead. So this long sentence, what it really says is, Royalist ideology was all about male dominance. Strange that the royalist women who were the early feminists wrote against it. Okay. Astha, it isn't too late to adopt this strategy. Vishnu and Vibhor, those of you who told me that you're taking it in the next few days, try it out before you discard it. And that why, what, who, and why, really, 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 it's like the holy grail for me. After every sentence that I understand, I ask these three questions and I get the flow. I get the flow. So here the flow is: author introduces an odd fact, then the author tells us why it is odd. Clear? Okay. I'm just going to complete that paragraph. And then the author says, some historians have questioned. So again, here, whose opinion is the author offering? Historians. What have they questioned? They have questioned. Now, if I don't know the meaning of facile, please don't bother about it. Facile actually means easy, all right, silly even at some times. But if you don't know the meaning, just forget it. If you don't know the meaning and no context is given for you to understand the meaning, it means GMAT test makers did not want you to understand that meaning. So just understand the rest of it. Some historians have questioned the equation of royalist ideology with Filmarian patriarchalism. What does that mean? It means that some historians don't believe that royalists followed patriarchalism. All right. So far, the author told us that general association was made, but some historians don't agree with that association. Does the author agree with that association? Let's find out. And indeed, who is saying this? Who is saying this? And indeed, guys, quickly, who is saying this? Absolutely, Chetan. Do not write what is already there, black and white. I have it there if I want to refer to it. I write down my understanding. Yes, guys. And indeed, who is saying that? Absolutely. There is a shift there. So, after mentioning some historians, now the author is pushing forward his point of view. Why is the author pushing forward his point of view? The author wants us to think like that as well. Right? Right? Good. Great, guys. Wonderful. So, let's continue here. Author says, indeed, there may have been no consistent difference between royalists and parliamentarians on the issue of family organization. That means the author believes it is quite possible that royalists and parliamentarians were of the same thought when it came to women's rights, political rights, and when it came to family organization, giving importance to women, etc. All right, it is possible that they were of the same opinion. This last part is very, very important. But in that case, one would expect early feminists to be equally divided between the two sides. Remember what the author found odd? The author found it odd that all identified with royalists. And here he's saying it would have been easier to understand if the early feminists were equally divided between two sides. So, my takeaway here is historians doubt whether royalists followed Filmer's ideology. Author supports this, okay? And author rounds up and concludes the oddity he or she observed at the beginning. All right? The author believes that if there had been no difference between royalist and parliamentarian ideas on women and family, then half of the women feminists should have been from parliamentarian sides as well. Why are they all from royalists? So clearly, here the author has not found the answer to the oddity. If I have to write down, given the background on the ideologies of the two sides, it is odd that all 17th century English women who were forerunners of modern feminism were royalists and none were parliamentarians. That's the crux of this paragraph, right? And so far, clear, guys? Are you all clear with this? Yes, Astha. The author and historians are kind of questioning. So historians are questioning the equation, means they don't really believe that the royalists followed the ideology of Robert Filmer. So one contrast was drawn between the early feminists and what they wrote and the royalist ideology. And the other contrast is, did the royalists really follow Robert Filmer's ideology? Okay. So there is a two thing going on here, Astha. One part is where the author brings up historians and says they are also puzzled, and the way they are solving their puzzle is by questioning whether the royalists did follow the parliamentarian, sorry, royalists did follow the Filmarian ideology. Okay. And then the author brings up his own point of view and says, if there was no difference between them and the parliamentarians, then why aren't more women feminists coming up from the parliamentarian side? Did you get that, Astha? They are questioning the equation between royalists and Robert Filmer. Yes, in the last sentence. Yes, guys, the others, if you're clear with this, can you just let me know? Are you clear how we do this conclusion? Sorry, this one-line summary. So drawing this one-line summary of your paragraph helps eventually when you're going to um, draw the main point. So Astha, nothing is given here. Now think about this like this. Think about it like this. At the beginning, the author finds it odd that some of these early feminist women do not come from parliamentarians, and he tries to explain it away by saying maybe the royalist ideology was different from the parliamentarians. The royalists followed the Filmarian patriarchalism. And then later on, he tries to show that some of the historians don't believe that. Some of the historians don't believe that. And then the author tries to say that maybe it is possible that the parliamentarians and the royalists had the same ideology. But if they had the same ideology, then more women should have come from that side. So, Astha, yes, Amandeep, we should note down the crux. Okay, crux, yes, always the crux. Vishnu, does that answer your question? Astha, does that answer your question? The nothing is given as the common ideology, it is hinted at. It is hinted at, Astha. Vishnu, by saying that royalists were, they believed in this Robert Filmer's patriarchalism, the author is trying to explain away the oddity. But then eventually he says that maybe there was no difference. But had there been no difference, then some women would have come from that side as well. Which means ultimately he does believe that there might have been some differences. All right. There may have been no consistent difference, Vishnu. So there are hints there. Astha, is that clear to you? Let me see. Yes. So Vishnu has got that cleared up out there. And Chetan, Amandeep, I hope your question is answered. Always note down the crux, guys. No need to note down the details if in any case. Okay. So is the odd fact about feminist. Uh, so the odd fact is all feminist women belong to royalists. That's the odd part. Okay. All right. The odd part is all feminist women belonging to the royalist side. All right. Remember that. And there was a divide between feminists and royalists. That part is very clear as per the general association. And the author sort of hints that parliamentarians probably thought differently. If they did not think differently, then there would have been more women feminists coming from parliamentarians as well. So a lot of complicated things here, but if you read the sentence by breaking it up, you will have a clearer picture, guys. Usually we have this habit of sweeping things under the carpet and moving on. Yes, that's the odd part, Vishnu. All feminists belong to royalist side. The author is confused. Why aren't more feminists coming from the parliamentarian side? Why? All right. So now, if you answer the question, Why was Robert Filmer's patriarchalism mentioned, guys? Why do you think, in your words? Now, I want all of you to answer this in your words. The question that was put forward. The author mentions Robert Filmer primarily in order to do what? You give me your answers in your words. Come on, quickly. Quickly, guys. You give me the answer in your own words. Go ahead. If you had to write down the answer to that question, that the author mentions Robert Filmer in order to, primarily in order to, how would you write it in your words? Quickly. Go ahead, guys. Let's see you write down some of that particular answer in your own words. Okay. So, in an attempt to solve the problem, um, which problem? Or would you want to use the word in an attempt to solve the oddity? Pradhan block. Okay, because royalists are associated with Robert Filmer's theory. Yeah, but why mention Robert Filmer's theory? Just to show that royalists are associated? Pratyusha? Is the purpose only to show that royalists are associated with that theory? Why? Chetan, why did the author want to show the royalist ideology at all? I'm asking the question, why did the author? I understand that the author mentions Robert Filmer to tell us what was the general belief about the royalist ideology. My question is, why does the author want to even rake up royalist ideology? Why? Yes, Chetan, why? Why does the author wants to make us understand the roots of royalist ideology? Very good, Aditya Shinde. Very good, Chetan. So Aditya Shinde says to show inconsistence with feminist ideology. Perfect. Same Chetan says because somewhere he is contrasting the thinking. Anurag, correct. To use it to explain the odd fact. Absolutely. So Vishnu, he is not questioning whether the royalists believed in male dominance. He wants to bring out the fact that royalists were supposed to follow this patriarchalism, but the royalist women, they were against it. So I'm going to discuss this quickly. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, guys. So let me do the pre-thinking here. Filma was mentioned, okay? Filma was mentioned just to introduce the ideology of patriarchalism, what it meant, right? Number one. This ideology was frequently associated with the ideology royalists held. And the royalist ideology was all about absolute power of the male or the king. But the royalist women wrote against this power. So the purpose of referring Filmer was to show the contrast. Okay, this and this, to show the contrast. The purpose of referring to Filmer was to tell us that the ideology, the absolute power of the male king, the ideology that was the royalist ideology, was absolutely the opposite of what the royalist women wrote. Okay, look at this. This is what I would rethink, and that is what I would carry away. So Filmer was referred to. This is going to be my pre-thought shadow answer. Filmer was referred to in order to focus our attention, draw our attention to the stark contrast between what the royalist ideology was believed to be and what the royalist feminists were writing. Is this clear, guys? So, Parth, you will have to understand. Robert Filmer was mentioned just to bring in the patriarchalism theory. There was no other need. But why was the patriarchalism theory brought in at all? It was brought in to draw the contrast, to explain the oddity, to explain what that oddity was. I want your answers here, guys. I want you also to look carefully how we did this, step by step. So if you're making the notes in the right manner, guys, okay, the author mentions the philosophy. The philosophy is a very radical one, male dominance. Royalist women wrote against male dominance. Therefore, the author wants us to think that royalist women and royalist ideology clashed. Okay, I would love to see a lot more yeses. Thank you, Chetan, Vishnu, Pratyusha, Astha, Vinayak. So, Vinayak, what you are saying is this seems to be more like a global reference. Yes, Vinayak. Never look at a very localized reference. GMAT passages aren't constructed that way. You are looking at a very myopic view of why Filmer was introduced. Myopic view means Filmer was introduced to introduce patriarchalism. Yes, but why was patriarchalism introduced? Okay, because without that, the purpose of the author is not brought out. The author did not just mention Filmer because he wanted to mention patriarchalism. He wanted to mention patriarchalism because, all right. So this brings us to a very, very important point. I'll discuss that later. Okay, local inference versus global inference, guys. Now, before that, let me quickly discuss the pre-thought answer choice. Now, remember this pre-thought answer choice. You can kind of write it down if you want, or keep it in your head every time you're looking at an answer choice. So that's what I've done here. I've kind of brought it forward for all of you here. So this is my shadow answer here. And choice A is saying to show that now every primary purpose question, any primary purpose, whether it's the primary purpose of the passage, whether it is the primary purpose of a paragraph, of a line, of an example, will contain two elements. The verb, this is the verb part, and that's the content part, the second half. So is the author trying to show something? Okay, show is not a bad word. That royalist ideology was somewhat more radical. Well, this is true, it was radical, but is the author trying to compare it with what the most historians appear to realize? No. Other historians do not question the radicality or the radicalness of the royalist ideology. So, totally out. Okay. That royalist ideology was radical has been stated as an adjective, but that is not the purpose of bringing up Filmer. You need to ask yourself this question, guys, always. Is the author's intention to merely indicate that royalist ideology was more radical? Is that the author's intention? No. Very few of you marked A, but that's okay. Let's move to B. Qualify. What does the word qualify? Now, a lot of you marked B, guys. What does the word qualify mean? Let's see. So, one part of the answer choice is qualify. I have to ask myself, is that the right word? Now, qualify means to limit the strength or the meaning of a statement. Okay. So, was the author trying to limit the meaning of something? No. Was the author trying to limit the meaning of the claim that patriarchalism formed the basis of the royalist ideology? No, the author was not questioning that claim at all. The author was not adding or detracting from that claim at all. So ask yourself, does the author want to limit the meaning of any claim? Definitely not. The general claim is royalists followed Filmer's ideology. The author is not trying to modify this claim. Okay, so this is totally a distortion of what the author is trying to do. B is incorrect, guys. Is that clear? A lot of you chose B. So, Rishit, Getting 11 out of 13 RC questions is good, provided the two questions that you got wrong were not one after the other. That would push down your score. It's a good thing. If the two errors are towards the end, maybe in the last 31st, 32nd question when you did not have time, it's fine. Guys, let me know if you have understood why B is incorrect. Quickly, we want to move to the next passage. Let me know if B is clear to all of you. Great. So I want you to see what was it that I did differently and you're not doing. Is it the way you're reading? Is it the crux? Is it the way you're understanding? All of it could be all of it. Or is it the way you're reading the answer choice? I at least divide my answer choices. I read segments of the answer choice, understand it, and then I check whether it aligns with the passage or not. Okay, great. Let me move to the next answer choice. Question the view. Now, I'm just going to stop here. Is the author trying to question anything? No. The author was trying to focus our attention on the contrast. So, definitely, the author is not trying to question the view. Most early feminists were associated with the royalist faction. This is an indisputable fact. Ask yourself, is the author doubting the fact? Is the author doubting the fact that early feminists were all royalists? He calls it an indisputable fact, guys. No. Very few of you chose C as the correct answer. This is quite the opposite of the passage. So it's definitely not the correct answer. Okay? The author is not questioning, not doubting the fact that early feminists were all royalists. D is the correct answer. Highlight an apparent tension. Tension could also mean contrast. Never look for familiar words, guys. Contrast between royalist ideology, yes, and the ideas of early feminists, yes. Highlight, okay. Focus our attention, yes, yes, yes. So D is the correct answer. Okay. So I am piecing together my answer choice. Absolutely part verb plus the content analysis of choices. Absolutely. I do that for all my purpose questions, all my function questions. All right. And in fact, at GMAT Wiz, we have a segment teaching you about these verb, you know, some of the verbs that are very commonly used in these purpose questions and how to differentiate. Okay. So let's quickly do away with E. Very few of you marked E. Is the author arguing? I wouldn't say the author is really arguing with anyone here. The author finds something odd and the author is telling us why it is odd. And particularly is mentioning Filmer in order to bring out that oddity. Okay. Royalists held conflicting opinions on issues of family organization. That was not the purpose. Royalists could include both um, the feminist women plus others. So we have to be a little more explicit, okay, that what was the conflict really all about. So E, okay, is not the correct choice. It's again distorting what the author really wants to bring about, the contrast between. The author wants to bring about the contrast between royalist ideology and the ideology of the royalist feminists. So guys, the key difference is reading speed versus comprehension speed. If you go for reading speed, you will get questions wrong because you won't understand a lot of things. Okay, so it is the comprehension speed which will matter, guys. And for that, we follow involved and evolved reading. So here's the strategy. I've already demonstrated the strategy to you. Here's the strategy in detail. Think like the author. Put yourself in the place of the author and start thinking like this. Okay, I am finding it odd. What am I finding it odd? Try to understand, because most questions are designed to test whether you have understood the author's point of view or not. So break sentences into small chunks, derive its meaning. Okay, all right, and that way join the various chunks. At the end of every sentence, ask the what does it mean? Who is saying it? Why are they saying it? All right. Maybe you won't be able to get the why for the first sentence, but you will definitely get it for each of the subsequent sentences. Okay. For each of the subsequent sentences, use this why to relate to the previous sentence, because then only you will get the flow. Let's say you did not get the flow, you went to the questions, and then if you have to come back to understand why Filmer was mentioned, it's going to be very difficult, time consuming, and you might get the question wrong. A lot of you did get it wrong. Okay. Understand why the what the author is trying to tell us and why the author is trying to tell us that. Use transition words and conjunctions to help you relate back the meaning, guys. And then make sure you summarize each paragraph in your own way. All right. This is called involved and evolved reading. You involve yourself in order to come up with an evolved understanding so that you can answer your questions with smooth. So this is what reading and comprehension. So for this is particularly for those of you who still haven't given the GMAT, who have time, you need to learn where to pause. I was doing it very, very smoothly, right? But we at GMAT will teach you how to where to pause. Take care of the complex words. Look out for facts and opinions. Differentiate between the author's opinion and somebody else's opinion and facts. Understand the intent. All right, and there for all of this, we have a skill builder of over 10 hours, guys, just to help you improve your reading skills. Okay, we show you how to note the transition words, how to understand the purpose of opinions in reading and comprehension passages. You see, these are slides from our course. Okay, guys, now without more ado, I'm sure you want to um, practice more with me. Vishnu, some of it you can adapt. At least try to link the meaning of sentences, Vishnu. Okay, once you finish reading one sentence, try to link the meaning with the second sentence. Try to understand what the author is trying to say. The crux, I think you can get that, right? At least you can try, Vishnu, instead of reading very quickly. Joy, I have not really found any advantage to reading the question first. Invariably, what happens is, even if you read the question first, you have to read the passage, and after reading the passage, you have to reread the question to understand what you need to look out for. You can do this for one question. Will you do it for every question? Okay. So, Vishnu, all the best. Astha, all the best. Try it out at least. Okay. In fact, here's the thing, try solving at least 3 to 4 passages using this method before you discard it. All right. And the only changes you need to make is don't read the full sentence in one go. Just break it into small segments and read to understand better. What are your views? RC's all types weightage in question 1, 2, 3, 4 in a part. You cannot think of a division of that sort. All you can do is, if your RCs are following in the first 27 questions, you have to make sure you attempt each of those RC questions with equal attention, equal focus. Okay, so the weightage dips towards the end. Quarter 1, 2, 3 are very important. Quarter 4, you can take it with a pinch of salt. If you don't have enough time left and you get an RC in quarter 4, especially if you get the RC in the later half, just mark it and leave it. But if you get the RC in the earlier half, then you might need to do something about it. Somshekhar, if you break down the sentence into small parts, you don't have to reread it. All right? Okay, Astha, did you ask something about the science passage? Quarter 4 RC, if it's coming in the 31st, 32nd, I think here, there you really can't do much about it. It's better to just kind of, because you won't have, if you're left with 6 minutes and 6 questions and there's an RC, you can't really solve it. Just mark the RC questions and make sure you solve the other questions. Don't skip anything in quarter 1, quarter 2, and quarter 3. So Astha, did you ask any question on science? I can't see that question. Your question, that is. How to go about technical jargon. So Astha, here's the thing. If GMAT test makers want you to answer a question, and for answering that question, you need to know the meaning of that jargon, you will be given context. You will be given context. And you have to look out for that context in the later part of the passage. Okay? Don't skip any RC's part in quarter 1, 2, or 3. Don't. Okay? So, technical jargon, instead of thinking about the jargon too much, look ahead to understand if any data is given to kind of demystify that jargon, because usually it is given there. They always give you data, they always give you context to demystify these kind of words which you don't understand. How much does it take to improve my verbal score from V25 to V40? I didn't get that question, Pratyusha. How much? Did you mean how much time? Or, I mean, the percentage points are very clear, 15 percentage point, but what did you want to ask? If you're talking about number of errors, it is not just about number of errors. It's also about where you're getting those errors. Ask her what I do, I'll tell you for science-based passages. I sometimes draw diagrams. Some arrows, okay, pineal gland connected to the cortex, connected to the eye, stimulating melatonin. I don't know the meanings of these words, I don't need to. I just need to understand the logic, how they are connected. Okay? Just look at the logic. That's all. How much time? Pratyusha, you should give yourself at least, and this is just over the top of my head, Pratyusha, but you should give yourself, because if you're scoring a V25, it means there are conceptual gaps as well as problems with the approach. It would take you approximately 2.5 months to rectify it. If you're able to give time, let's say if you're able to give 7-8 hours a day, or even 5 to 6 hours a day, I would say 2 months should be good enough. 1.5 to 2 months, and I'm including practice time, not just learning time. Okay, but if you're able to give just 2 to 3 hours a day, then you would need a lot more than that. In fact, let me guys, let me share a link. So I'm going to share 2 links there. One link will be a link for the free trial version of our course. Okay, and the other link, why am I not able to post it? The other link is to set up a free call with our strategy expert. Pratyusha, you can talk to them. Let me just put out their link, put out the links there. The links are there on the screen for you to see. Okay, so you can definitely go visit the free trial version of our course to get more insights about GMAT Whiz course. You can also set up a free call with our strategy experts if you want to know more about how much time it will take and all of that. All right. Okay, you're welcome, guys. There's another question. Amandeep, what to do with RCs which are loaded with data? Amandeep, let the data be there. You note down why the data has been given. Data you can always cross check. Okay, let me see. Ronak, you're getting V32 to V34 and async quant. What should I concentrate for final 2 days? Ronak, concentrate on your approach. I think you might be getting a lot of questions wrong early on in the mock, in the verbal section. If you're getting 2 or 3 errors in the first quarter, you need to check why you're getting those wrong, because usually the questions there are easier. So my thing is that your approach needs to be perfected. That is why you're not being able to break that plateau. All right, you still have time. Check out the exact reasons why you're making errors. Pinpoint them. Maybe you're not reading it carefully, maybe you are forgetting to focus your attention on something. In fact, you can set up the free call if you want, Ronak. All right, guys, I'm going to bring up the next question. I'm sure you want to solve a few more questions. Here's a passage. This is my own passage and question. This is a GMAT Wiz question. All the best, guys. Try to use the strategy that we just discussed. How many RC questions are there on GMAT Wiz? So Anurag, I think there would be approximately, if I'm not wrong, around 300, 350 questions. Questions are not passages. Each of our passages contain 4 questions at least. Yes, Parth. Maintain speed in the. So it's like this. On an average, if I think about 2 minutes per question, I should be at least on the 54th minute on the 27th question. All right. Let me share the link with you. I don't know why it's not working. I think remove the 2. Let me just reshare the free trial link. Hold on, guys. Let me share the free trial link. And let me just reshare it. See if that works. I've shared it individually. Do let me know if that's working. Sometimes. Okay, you want me to copy paste the passage? I'll do that. The logo is blocking it. I understand. Give me a moment. I'll just rewrite some of the sentences for you. Okay, there I go. Is the link working, guys? I have posted in the chat the first couple of sentences. I hope you can see them now. Can you see it now? Okay, guys. Do let me know if the free trial version is working. I'm going to give you another 4 minutes for this question. Pradhan, is the free trial link working? So that's the part which is hidden by the logo. And do not post your answers, guys, right away. I'll tell you when to post it. Just going to stop my camera. Thanks, Suhas, for letting me know that the link is working. All right, guys, time is up. 4 minutes done, gone. You can start putting in your answers. Also, do let me know if you want to, how you found the passage. Did you like it? Was it challenging enough for you? Go ahead, quickly. And okay, Nick says it's B. Okay, let's see. How about the others? I can still see a lot of you are still out there. Pratyusha says A. Okay, Aditya also finds B as the correct answer. How about the others? Chetan, Astha, Vibhor, Vishnu. Okay, let me see the answers that I've got here. Astha C, Makhabat is C. All right. And how about the others? So far I have A, B, and C. All three choices. Yes. In the meantime, while you're posting your answers, there's another link that I can just post for you. Those of you who are going to give your exam, maybe in the next few days or even in 10-15 days, you can watch this interview. One of our students, okay, and the way he went about, preparing, and the way he went from a very low score to a very, very high score. Let me just share that with you. That's a link you could explore. Guys, I'm still waiting for some more of your answers. Can you please post your answers? I just have a handful of answers so far, and I would love to get discussing this question. Have you guys not been able to solve it in 4 minutes or what? Come on. Smith says it should be B. Okay. So I've got takers for B and C and a smaller number of takers for A. Okay. Let me get started by explaining this. Anybody else with their answers? Come on, guys. I can see at least around 50 of you are there. Where are your answers? Vinayak, thank you for posting your answer. B. B seems to be the favorite. Okay. I think I'll just get started with explaining the strategy to read. So those of you waiting out there, you don't have to wait anymore. Here goes my. So when you start reading it, you realize that the author is talking about two things. And so Astha, you were asking about decoding or demystifying words that you don't understand. Okay. So let's try to explain how to do that in this passage, because this passage also has terms like induction, deduction, stuff like that, generalizations, and pinnacle and disfavoring, stuff like that. So let's start reading. To put things simply, so the author is going to explain something, simplify something. Induction emphasizes the individual. So induction is something which stresses on the individual, the single person, whereas therefore there is a transition word here, contrast. Deduction begins with generalization. So right off the bat we are told that we are talking about two processes here, uh, induction and deduction, and these are quite the opposite. One is all about the individual, the other is all about the about generalizations. Then and right now I don't know why the author is bringing out this contrast. Probably the author is going to discuss more about this contrast, tell us more about what is this induction, what is this deduction. Science largely began with a focus on deduction. So now the author is telling us, um, about deduction, more about deduction. It seems that deduction was used right from the beginning when science began, when science was trying to find laws and science was trying to explain about the world. At that point of time, science was using deduction. Okay. In the 19th century, generalizations means deduction, right? Reached a pinnacle. I don't know what is pinnacle. Reached overuse. That means too much of deduction was being used, overused, particularly for explaining something, human characteristics. Okay, fine. So I'm told about too much of deduction being used. It began to be used early on, but then it reached a state of overuse. While deduction became disfavored because of those missteps. Okay, so deduction was being overused, and that is why it became disfavored. People stopped using deduction. Maybe science stopped using deductions, and induction rose to favor. So finally, I'm told induction gained popularity because of whatever techniques were there in induction. So sum total of this paragraph is the author talks about two terms and shows how the former gained favor over the other, nothing more, nothing less. And this was a very simple paragraph. The problem starts here. So now I notice that the author wants to talk about the problem of induction. And what is the problem? Impossibility of observing every individual case. Okay. So induction, so that means by reading this, I realize that when we are talking about this induction and deduction, we are talking about observing cases. And the problem with induction is you can't observe every case. Now, this is what I do, Astha, and the others. I like kind of take up some data for myself. I say, let's say there are 100 cases, okay, or 1,000 cases. And problem of induction is it cannot observe every case. So let's say out of this, 700 can be observed, 300 cannot be observed. I'm thinking. In other words, okay, so author is not going to explain more. There is always uncertainty about what hasn't been observed. So uncertainty means there would always be doubt about this category. All right. And it is impossible to observe everything that we already know. So there is a conclusion here to fill the gap between observations. So which gap? The gap left by 300. Okay. So fill gap, we make generalizations that are based on what has been observed. So the gap is filled by generalizing that 700 data. Do you understand this now? Okay. In modern science, these generalizations become scientific models. All right. And then we are talking about a particular model called the empirical model. It emphasizes the fact that it is built from observed data. So 700 observed data, the model is built on observed data, although all the data was not observed. Some 300 data that it was built on was also based on the generalization. And the purpose of this model is to make predictions. Okay, this makes predictions here. All right. And the application is known as deduction. So this prediction is used for uh, you know it is used, the application of the model to unknown situation is deductions. Okay, so summing it all up, what I have is the paragraph talks about the problem with induction. It cannot observe each and every case. Conclusion must be drawn about the area even if all cases are not considered. There is always a feeling of uncertainty. This is important. To cover the gap left by unstudied cases, generalizations must be drawn, and these generalizations produce models that are applied to make deduction. So if I sum it all up, the paragraph talks about the problem with the process of induction and how induction helps to develop certain models. The flow, if I talk about the flow, the author introduces two terms, two processes. One gained favor over the other, and then the author describes the process of induction, its problems, and its models for deduction. That's all. When I come to the question, the pre-thinking. Now the question was, what is the problem with the induction? The problem with the induction is that cannot observe each and every case, and to cover the gap, generalization must be drawn. That means the problem with induction is you still have to use deduction, isn't it? That's the problem. Is this clear, guys, so far? Are we clear? Do let me know if this is clear, guys. All of you. You have to simplify. Asta, you have to demystify what you're reading. Because if you sum it all up, what it seems is the problem is you can't observe everything, which means ultimately you are having to use deduction in some way or the other, because deduction was all about generalization. Is that clear, guys? Do let me know if it is clear so that we can move forward towards eliminating the choices. Okay, thank you, Pratyusha. Thank you, Asta, for letting me know it's clear. The others too, I hope you are getting a hang of how I am simplifying things and how I am bringing it down to an understandable level or takeaway level. Okay, great. So, with that pre thinking, I'll move to the answer choice elimination. All right, I'll start with A. Now, again, notice how I am reading the answer choices, because one part of your strategy is to read the paragraphs properly. The other part is also to read the answer choices properly. So let me see. The question was, the problem of induction is it. So this it would be referring to induction. So I'm basically saying induction fails in its observation of individual case. Let me stop here and ask myself, does induction fail to observe individual cases? That's a distortion. We are saying it is impossible to observe every case. It doesn't mean it fails to observe cases. It fails in its observation of every case would have been different, but every case is not given. It seems to imply that it is not able to observe the cases, which is a distortion totally. It's a distortion here. Okay, and has to depend. So this is another verb, has to depend on speculative measure to fill gaps. Speculative measures, okay, so it is basically generalizing. Yes. So I would say to a certain extent this half of the sentence is correct, but the first half is a distortion and is incorrect. Therefore, this answer choice is a distortion of the idea that it is not possible to make observation about every case. The distortion is it fails to observe cases, and therefore A is out. So at GMAT Viz, we also teach you about the various kinds of traps. Often distortion and half truth is a very big trap. You will find out of the 15 words on an answer choice, 12 words are correct, 2 are incorrect, or 10 words are correct, 5 words are incorrect. You have to notice which part is truth, which part is half truth, which part is distortion. A is not the answer. B. A lot of you marked B, and B is the correct answer. A lot of you did not mark B because maybe it started with advantage and you thought we have to look for a problem. But never eliminate choices just on the basis of a few words, guys. No. So what we're saying is induction's advantage. We are saying induction's advantage is its basis, which are the specific observation of individual cases. Yes, that is the advantage. You can observe individual cases, but, so there is a but, it too has to resort to generalization. Yes, this is also true. And definitely that has been pointed out as a problem, right? That it cannot observe every case. So to fill the gap, we have to make generalization. So that seems to be the problem here. So therefore, definitely this is in line with our pre-thinking and is the correct answer. Okay. Now, a lot of you also marked C as the correct answer choice, if I remember. Yes, let me go up. Yeah, I can see, definitely see a couple of C's over there. So let me also, and guys, those of you who got B correct, also try to see whether you got it right for the right reason. I hope, Asta, the involved and evolved reading is working for you, even if it is just one instance. C says it cannot draw up a predictive model unless and until. Now, this is important. Was there a condition given that unless and until something happens, it cannot draw up a predictive model? Not really. Unless and until it has studied all cases. I would say this is the wrong part. Okay. It doesn't have to study all cases. Remember, it is filling in the gaps. It is filling in the gaps by, look at this part. Generalizations are made on the basis of what has been observed so far. That means it does draw up a predictive model even if it cannot study each individual case. Okay. So to say that predictive models cannot be drawn up until all cases are studied, that's the opposite of what is given in the paragraph. Predictive models are drawn up even if all cases are not studied because of the generalizations that are used. So C is incorrect. I hope you can see why C is incorrect, guys. Thank you, Astha, for letting me know that the involved and evolved reading approach does seem to work. You just need to practice it for a little while longer and do let me know if it works. You can mail to me at sunita@gmatviz.com. All right. I would love to hear from you, you and the others who are taking your exams, and if you find reading and comprehension has really helped you. All right. So let me quickly discuss D and E. D says its predictive guides are all built on the basis of imprecise observation. So this is totally off. All observations are not imprecise. Some observations are definitely made. For some observations, we are using generalizations. We can't say all are imprecise. And this actually is the function of deduction. It is not the problem of induction. He says induction is used for making general prediction. So this is the function of the process of deduction. Okay, we are not talking about the function, we are talking about the problem, and therefore it is out. So guys, very quickly, initially this may seem time consuming, and it might be time consuming in the beginning, but with practice this process becomes second nature. Look at me, I'm doing it like I'm just doing any other passage. Map the passage, understand the flow of idea, derive the author's point. That's how this is going to work, guys, and it does work that way. You know, I spoke to you right at the beginning that I would discuss the irony of saving time. You know, you rush through this. Asta, you want to discuss C, or is it clear now? Asta, is C clear? Okay. So I told you that I would discuss the irony of saving time, and I'm just going to quickly move to that. We do not have too much of time, so I'm going to skip the other passage that was there. um, we don't have the time, so let me quickly take you to the part where we are going to discuss about the time irony. Local inference, global inference, I've already mentioned this guy. Don't go for local inference. Look at the bigger picture. Always look at this. Always. All right. Most people end picking up choices which just look at some familiar words. That is distortion. And there are lots of other traps that we talk about in our course. You know, distortion and half truth, confusing words, limited scope, opposite, out of scope, generalization, irrelevant. All right. Most of the students start seeing these traps after solving thousands of questions, but we teach you right at the beginning to look out for these, and you need to tame these traps. For that, you need to tally your solution with a solution which is written out in a particular manner. Each of our solutions is written out the exact way I explained the solutions to you, so that when you are checking your answer choice, you don't just check for correct or incorrect. You're able to check why you eliminated each choice. You are able to categorize each of the choices in a bucket. You're able to work out why you are making mistakes. Okay, unless you get the reason right, you haven't got the question right. So you have to learn about these traps. I've already shared with you the link to Akshat's journey, how he was able to improve his weak areas. I'll quickly reshare that. All right. So that if you want to access it, if you want to understand how he did it, and that's a very real, doable things that he did. Okay. All right. So let me quickly take you to the irony part. But just remember that he improved his understanding of the methodologies. He reviewed the solutions in depth, even if you got the questions right. He identified the patterns that he was making, the similar kinds of errors he was making. He revisited those weak areas to improve his understanding of those areas. And above all, believe in yourself, guys. So, we teach you all about these traps early on. Okay, let's quickly discuss the time saving irony, guys. Yes, yes, Vinayak. True. Again, you can't fall into those traps. That's the point. Let me quickly talk to you about these ironies because this is what most of you do, guys. Most students, what they do is they read quickly. So they think, okay, let me quickly get to the question. Let me answer the question. Good. You should answer the question correctly. So you finish your reading in 2-3 minutes, even less. Then you go to the question. And before you go to the question, you just have a rough idea of what has been mentioned. And because of that, you reread, you come back to the passage, you reread again and again when you move to the choices. So in that way, you're taking almost 2 minutes per question. So the time taken for an average passage of 4 questions would be something like 9 to 11 minutes. So even if you were hurrying, you actually took a lot more time. On the other hand, a GMAT whiz student would read properly the first time and probably take double the time. Look at this. Okay. But there would be a very clear understanding of what he or she has read. Therefore, when the answer choice elimination comes along, you're very confident what won't work because you read that confidently, you read carefully, and you're able to solve each question in under a minute. So you take just 8 minutes. Now this might look like okay, what difference does the 2 minute make? Look, 2 minutes means one more question. Crucial. Second, also think about the accuracy. This kind of understanding, okay, is not good for accuracy. This is required for accuracy. So it's ironical that the more time you save, the more time you take. Is that clear, guys? Any queries you have? I'm there for the next few minutes, guys. So if you have any queries, please go ahead and ask. I'm going to share once again the link to the free trial version. And I'm also going to share the link to the free call. You can set up a strategy call with our experts on calendly.com. I'm sharing both the links with you guys. In the meantime, do let me know if you have any queries, anything that you'd like to ask. I hope you found the webinar beneficial, guys. I don't know why I'm not able to copy the link. Let me go back to the earlier part. Okay. All right, there's the link there. Do let me know if you have any queries, guys. I'm there for another 3-4 minutes. If you want to ask any questions, please go ahead. You can also connect with us on. You can write to us. You can connect with us, and you can WhatsApp on that number. Any queries, guys? Anything that I can help you with? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Just mark a yes if you're able to hear me. Uh, I'll be back. I think. Guys, can you hear me now? I was facing a net connection or some problem maybe. Do let me know if you can hear me now. And you can connect with us on any of those platforms. Can you hear me, guys? I can see that you are there, but I don't know if you can hear me or not, guys. Do let me know if you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Guys, can you hear me? Uh, I just don't know, some technical error or glitch. So if you can hear me but you cannot reply back or anything,